Hello everybody, Adrian Plus here.
Yes, and Bridget, hello.
And this is number 43.
It is.
And listen, some people have been asking for an update on the jigsaw.
I
To be honest, we have made a lot of progress, but in context that doesn't mean a great deal. But I have gone into a fairly biblical mode over it. One of the pieces which is very difficult to find a place for, but which looks as though it must go somewhere significant. And I've decided that I know now what it is after some time of just praying and communing
And
with
what
God.
is that, Adrian?
It is the peace that passes all understanding.
It certainly is.
It is, yes. I think I've arrived there. Yeah.
Well, we've had one or two emails from people that have connected with other things we've been talking about over the last few weeks. I don't know if you remember, but a while ago we were talking about heaven and wondering what we'd like in heaven. And somebody wrote and said they would like to have breakfast on the beach with Jesus. Sun, sea, breakfast and Jesus. What a perfect combination. I'll tell you what, I'm going to be there.
Right. Okay.
And then we heard from someone, we were talking about Jesus taking time and how the person with him was the most important person, whoever they were and wherever they came from, whatever they needed. And this person was saying that it made him think of his doctor, who always managed to make him feel that he'd been there for a long time and actually did take far longer than maybe he should have done. And it did, I don't know, this sort of 10 minutes max in which you're supposed to manage to tell all your problems,
Right,
listen to what's wrong with you, get a diagnosis, get medication and be out the door. It was nice to hear of a doctor who is just maybe saying, nope, not doing that. It was lovely.
We had one like that where we lived, didn't we?
We did, actually.
And everyone said, he was here for ages.
Yeah.
And we thought, he can't have been with all of them for ages. But it was just the way he did it.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
It's a funny time at the moment. I must say my thoughts have been very complicated lately.
When are they not, Adrian?
Well, I know. But and when I thought about that, I was coming downstairs and thought, I remember the day we were sitting in the car and you said something like, what were you just thinking about?
Yeah.
And I told you, and you were absolutely flabbergasted. And I wrote it down when we got home.
Have you got it?
Yes, I've got them here.
Right.
I was thinking about Jung's shadow and how it applies to various aspects of life. I then went, this is in 2 minutes, right? I then went on to the illogicality of God's creation. Then I went, a cry of anguish at everything in the world. And then I thought, I wouldn't mind a crab. And then I thought, I haven't been able to have a decent radish for ages. And though, I say 2 minutes, it was probably 4 or 5 minutes, I expect. But I remember C.S. Lewis writing about autobiographies and saying that in a way they were ridiculous because in a minute, in an hour, you can think so many things, especially when things are not quite as stable and serene as you might want.
That would be quite fun. I think I'm going to try doing that. Just Google into your own thoughts for a moment or two and find out just how odd they are. We may find that we're all just as odd as you, Adrian. You never know.
Well, I wouldn't be odd then, would I?
No, that's true. Well, in a way, that really fits in with where we all are, doesn't it? I mean, we're trying to understand what on earth we're supposed to be doing at the moment. And there are real problems with clarity. And somebody sent me, they're reading Alice in Wonderland at the moment, and she sent me a quote from it. No, the adventures first, said the Gryphon in an impatient tone. Explanations take such a dreadful time. And I thought if ever that tuned in to where we are at the moment, the 50 things that are now being put in place to explain to us what on earth Mr. Johnson was talking about on Sunday night. But then I was thinking, you and I, we've been involved, haven't we, once or twice, with trying to work out clear messaging for charities we've been involved in because we've done tours and written and various things for them. And how difficult it is. As soon as you say a simple, clear statement, all the things that don't quite fit into that clear statement spring into view.
Yeah, and the major problem, or the aim was to tell the truth with the messaging.
Absolutely.
And it was very easy just to slip off the main track of those messages.
Yeah, it was.
Especially over the
it's always over sponsoring, really.
which
I think
is,
so. I think so.
That's right.
And another one that we had was over the fact that on the particular charity we worked with, every project lasts for 15 years, and then it finishes, and a new one starts somewhere else, which we've seen in practice and we know it works. But the messaging for that was quite complicated. Maybe really important things just have to take time to work through to a point where you can tell the truth, but at the same time not make it half-truth or false truth.
We've seen it all through our lives, actually. I mean, if you think about when we work with kids in care, and it's a kind of parable for Christian conversion in a way, and we might have mentioned this before, I'm not sure, but kids would go off, foster kids would go off to a potential foster home, and they would be told you'll sleep in your own room. Well, mainly they didn't want to sleep in their own. They never slept in their own room.
Yeah.
You'll be in a family. What's a family? And you'll be loved unconditionally. What on earth does lots of terms that were very difficult to understand. And I can remember one of them saying, well, I sat on the edge of the sitting room and I just listened to everybody and I just didn't know what they were talking about. And I didn't know where the rules are because there was nothing on the wall, because where he'd lived all his life, they were on the wall.
Yeah, there's no transition, no space for this necessary transition, really.
No, and it's
so
not
many
fair,
situations.
really. And
no.
I mean, the parallel for people who come into the church, sometimes people are so glad to be in because of the need they hope will be met, that they're singing choruses and doing stuff they don't know what they mean, like those foster kids. And that can be really, really
well,
difficult.
I remember do you remember we met a youth pastor? He was a great guy, actually, and doing some fabulous work. And he was working with kids in just a youth group that was nothing to do with the church. But he really wanted them to join and to be part of it. And what he did, if you remember, he was showing us that he gave each of them a little bag of Lego pieces to make up one of those little Lego men. And he made the point, you don't have to make this up before you become a Christian. In other words, you can come to Jesus while you're still all over the place and in pieces. And I can't remember whether it was you or I asked him, what happens when they are in the church? And he thought, and he said, you know what? They have to make up their little man pretty quickly, really, in order to fit in.
They do, and that's the trouble. There are traps for those who would really like to remain authentic. One of the very first stories I ever told was about we used to travel on coaches, didn't we? Neither of us drove.
Yeah, we took the coach from Norwich to Bristol.
That's right,
a heck of a long journey.
And we queued for a long time to get on because my legs are long, and we wanted the front seat. And so we did our queue, and then we were about to get on and sit down when a lady ran round and gazumped me.
She did.
And you are usually a very nice person, but very nice people can be quite aggressive sometimes.
Well, we had queued for a long time,
Bridget
and I
said,
knew
excuse me, my husband needs a seat because of his legs.
I did, yes.
And the queue behind us mistook the meaning of that and thought we were saying that I had bad legs.
And you were only about 20,
I
weren't
was
you?
quite young, and they were saying, oh, he's so young, oh, he's got bad legs. So we're sitting on this thing, and I could almost feel the eyes boring through my trousers, kind of imagining some dreadful putrefaction underneath.
Invisible,
Invisible, yeah. So we travelled on, we stopped for tea, and most of the bus got off, or all of the bus, except us. And then we thought, well, we'd like a cup of tea. So we set off. But just by the door of the cafe, we saw my support group hanging about, watching, I think, waiting to see how my bad legs affected the way I walked. Now, you wouldn't have done this, but I did. I lied. I limped heavily from the bus with you laughing hysterically beside me. And I repeated this on the way back. So now my support group thought, not only has he got bad legs, he's got a completely loony wife. So by the time we were in Bristol or wherever it was, they were deep into obstetrics or something. But it was one of the first stories that made me ask a question in this way. And the question was, how many other little small worlds can be created by misunderstanding and kept going by cowardice? And in the church, it happens a lot because you've jumped some steps. You're in there. You've learned to role play, being whatever you need to be. But in your heart, there is this feeling that you never really understood.
And when is the moment when you can say that? Especially if you've been going to church or been part of a group for a long time. There isn't that moment when you can really, really tell the truth. And we discovered something very interesting at Scargill House. We were doing something. I can't even remember what the theme was actually. But I do remember that we were certainly talking about God. Of course we were. But we wanted to know how people individually felt about where God was in their lives. And we thought the best way to do this is to allow them to be totally anonymous. So what we did was we gave out little pieces of paper and asked that people just wrote one line on their bit of paper. And the one line
and we did say to them, didn't we, before you write your line, catch the first thing that hits your head.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise you're going to edit it.
No, it wasn't
that's
what
right.
should God be in your life,
that's right.
but where is he right now?
Yeah.
And that was important, not where was he last week or where do you hope he'll be in a month's time.
Yeah.
So we gave them the line, our God is many things, and asked them to just add one thing to that. And then we collected together the piece of paper and in a completely random order just read them out. And I'll just read you a bit of it. Our God is many things. He's a good father, loving and ever present. He is my rock. He is never with me when I need him most. A distant God, looking for reasons to punish. My best friend, the light that makes my darkness bearable. Our God is many things. He is like the sea, deep and serene. He is filled with forgiveness. He loves everyone except me. He lives in us. He must see my agony, but he doesn't do anything about it. His love keeps the world turning. And it was quite extraordinary, wasn't it? I mean, it was like a cry from the heart to the body, really.
Well,
it was just about everything.
It was a total statement because some people, I'm sure, truthfully, were saying that it's great.
Oh, absolutely.
But right in the middle of it, someone saying, God loves everyone except me.
Yeah.
And when you think of the norm, what we call testimonies, where people talk about their experience of faith, they are almost neurotically positive.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to find a place where people can be as honest as they need to be out there.
I think that's true.
About that. It's really,
I remember
really
we
hard.
had a young friend, didn't we, who had huge mental health problems. And she was a Christian. She was one of these hanging on by her fingertips. And she said, didn't she, I don't see how I can tell anybody about God because my life is such a mess. And we said, but that is an extraordinary story to tell people, that despite everything, you're still hanging on.
Yeah.
You're still believing. You're still waiting. Yeah. And God will be very proud of you, we thought.
These things do take time.
They
really do. I'll tell you a quick story if you like. It's about a centipede, and it's not my story, and I can't even remember where we found it.
It's one of our favourites.
It's about a man who wanted a pet that talked. So he went to a pet shop, and he asked the man, and the man said, well, you're in luck. I've got a centipede that talks, and he's in this box. Take him home in the box, and don't take him out for a while because he'll be very shy. So he took the centipede home in the box, put him on a shelf, and it was Saturday morning, and he walked up to the box and he said, Centipede, do you want to come to church with me tomorrow? Silence. He went back at lunchtime. He said, Centipede, I'm going to church in the morning. It's really nice there. Would you like to come along with me. Silence. He tried again in the evening, same response. In the morning he thought, I'll have one more go just before I leave for church. He leaned right over the box and he said, Centipede, I'd love you to come to church with me. Will you come to church? And the centipede at last spoke, and he said, I heard you the first time. I'm just putting on my shoes. It takes some people a long time to get their shoes on. But for now, if we are happy to stay with that verse we mentioned earlier in one of these recordings, John 8:32, the truth will definitely set you free. No gold stars for role-playing, being a wonderful Christian, but maybe a little gold star for simply telling the truth.
And what a responsibility for us as part of church that we don't then put people right. Put them into a little box, say, what you should be thinking, what you should be feeling. We have no idea where people started from, and we have no idea how far they've come.
Oh, it's great responsibility, and it's not easy. I mean, I can remember really wanting to do that,
Exactly.
to get people moving and changing and going on, and
and
I suppose
catching up.
Yeah. Sometimes you need perhaps to do that, but in the main, we are where we are. God loves us as we are, and far too much to leave us as we are. But the change is his business,
Absolutely.
not ours. So let's hope that the lack of clarity becomes a little more bearable.
Yeah, and a bit more of an adventure.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.